Welcome to Locales Unknown. This podcast gives you the tools you need to choose your next travel destination and the tips you want to be able to explore like a local. Here are your hosts, Chris and Winfield.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locales Unknown. Today, we have the honor of talking to a guy that really is near and dear to my heart. He's a true lifesaver, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. His name is Suman Dhakal from Nepal, and he was my guide when I went to Everest Base Camp. And he's a great guy. Really, really appreciate the time here. And thanks, Suman. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Suman and I met because back in 2019, I did the Everest Base Camp trek. The night before we were going to start this 12-day journey, we had an orientation. That's the first time I had an opportunity to meet Suman. And right off the bat, I knew I was in good hands. This guy is incredible, the most welcoming person I've ever met, and not to mention a beast up on the trail. So again, I appreciate it. We'll get into more detail about the various journeys that we take. But Suman, if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit of background about you, where you're from, and how you got involved with the trekking community in Nepal.
Okay, welcome to Nepal, first of all, for everyone. Actually, my name is Suman Dhakal. I'm from the Gorkhas district. In Nepal, we have a 75 district. And one of the north side is called the Gorkha. And I'm born into there. And then after my finish the school level, I moved to Kathmandu. And then when I finish my +2 level, and then I'm joining to this tourism field. And then I'm working on a tourism. I visited all the mountain area in Nepal. And I found very different kind of people who from to Nepal visit different kind of playful, different kind of culture, different kind of nature. And then I'm happy to guiding those kind of peoples. And still I'm working in this field. And then one of my best part is my friend Chirish. That time we are going to on a group. I'm going to sharing about his trekking. And that we are enjoying on the trial. That time we're doing to Everest Base Camp. And then first day we landed to locale and we are going forward to Everest Base Camp. And then the day before Everest Base Camp, his place call name is Labuche. And he's going to sit there. And then I try to make happy to hear, and just one more days we are reaching to our destination. That time he's like currently the serious condition, but I give to him like the energy for one more days. And then that's the one thing I check to his oxygen level. This is the real things I'm going to telling about you, right? And I checked to his oxygen level. The oxygen level is 68 that times. And I motivated him to continue. And I give to many, like as a local medicine, not for any another medicine. I give to Tentu is helping to make warmer his body. And after that, he's going to go to reach to there. Is the garlic soup is also very best medicine. And I give to him. And after that, he's not like as a happy to go forward, but I push to him, right? And I push to him. Second day, he's also trying to go there, and I thought he enjoy it. He's had pain, but he's going to try to enjoy it, right? And then we reached to base camp, and then after that we finish and we back down, and they are enjoying, and all the group are enjoying. We finished very successfully, and so far I'm still working in Nepal in mountain area.
You saved my life that time. You know, I have a bit of a confession. After I came back, Suman, I told everyone that my blood oxygen level only went down to about 74, so they didn't get too worried.
Normally in mountain, below 70% oxygen level, we cannot give to advice to go the further the higher part. But that time really I support him, and I give to motivate him, and then we make it that time also.
You solve the problem for sure.
Because he has a long planning. He came to Nepal long the way, and he has dreaming to reach to there. That's why I'm pushing him also.
Yeah, so I told
And
all
that's
my
my
family
occupation also.
I told my family and friends that I only got down to about 74, so no one really worried. But yeah, it was
Yep.
at 68. So we'll I guess we'll have that confession now. But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, you took care of me, and you're absolutely right. And I'm sure you've experienced this with other people. So people come from all over the world, and you know, that was about a 24-hour trek just to get over there travel wise. And we're halfway up to our final destination. There was no way I was going to stop. So thankfully, I was in good hands, as I mentioned in the very beginning. I mean, I really appreciate it. Winfield, I got to bring you in here. We can talk all day about our trek, man. So have you been to Nepal yet? I don't even know.
No, I haven't. And definitely something that it's high on the list. And one of the places it's interesting for listeners, obviously, that we think the higher we go, the less available oxygen there is in the air. So Chris is just referring to the lack of oxygen, and I know obviously I haven't experienced it. It's something that's high on my bucket list. But climbing up just to Everest Base Camp, about 17,000 feet, I believe, and it's quite a trek just to get there, just to start the journey. So, Suman, can you give us a little bit of background? You said that the journey from Kathmandu to Lukla, usually a small plane, then from Lukla up to base camp. Kind of break it down for listeners as to what exactly that entails in terms of trekking and expectation physically, please.
Okay, thank you again. And from the first day when you reach to Kathmandu, I think you are going to be relaxed, and we are preparing for the trek. And next day our plan, we go to Lukla. First of all, we need to go to the airport. It's called the Tribhuvan International Airport. And from there we go to Lukla. The Kathmandu is 1,300 meter the elevation, and when we reach to Lukla is 2,600 meters. Right, and there is a very narrow and the old most dangerous airport also in there, right? And it's a very tiny airplane. The people, just 16 people, they're traveling on this plane, and then forward we are starting to walking, and then we go to the continue until the base camp is when we are going to higher the, and then we sleep every day. We are going to higher, make higher, and sometimes the people, they feel like as altitude sickness, right? But you need to be very careful. Sometimes the people, they came from very long way, and then they have like long planning, and but you do not negligence for your the body condition. The health is very important. If you have a life, you can do the next time, next day also. That's the main things who traveling to mountain area, not only the Everest region, everywhere in the mountain in Nepal. First of all, what do you think? It means the first priority you give to your life. You do not negligence, you do not challenging with the nature and then altitude also. That's my advice.
Oh, thank you for that. And what about in terms of acclimatization? Because obviously Everest, and there's so many 8,000-meter peaks in that area. But for people that are trekking maybe a little bit lighter altitude, in the Annapurna circuit or areas of that nature, what do you recommend in terms of a itinerary for, say, 1 week or 10 days for people that might not do base camp but would like to experience the trails in the foothills of the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, sorry.
First of all, if you do not go to directly the high altitude trek. Before go to high altitude trek, you can do the normal trek. That means above the less than 4,000 meter. First you can try, or until 5,000, 4,000 meter. and then you can go to above the 4,000 meter. That's the better idea. And we have many those kind of trekking. It's called the Annapurna circuit, and then it's called the Gorepani. It's called to Langtang. We have many different kind of those kind of trekking trails in Nepal.
Oh, definitely, and thank you for that. And it's interesting because Nepal, that there's such a varied landscape from what I've seen. As I said, I haven't been personally, but also Kathmandu, there the architecture and the congestion of the city. It looks like there's a lot of people in a small space. You have snake charmers. You have everybody. Everybody right there. So give us some insight. I know that Kathmandu is the staging point for most travelers that are going up to higher mountains. What should we see and do in Kathmandu, and how many days do we need there?
Before go to trek in Kathmandu Valley, there is a many place to like as a visiting place. If you like to architect, I recommend it to there is a three places. You can go to Kathmandu Darbar Square and Bhaktapur Darbar Square and then Patan Darbar Square. This is the most architect place to see. And there is another many old heritage site inside the Kathmandu Valley also. This is the call to very famous temple. The Hindus temple is called Pasupatinath, and then is another call to the Swayambhu. Most of people they call Monkey Temple, and those kind of people they are very visiting places when you are landed to Kathmandu, and if you have a 1 day or 2 day times, you must go to visit to there.
Yeah, I must say that even before starting the Everest Base Camp trek, Kathmandu was an experience in and of itself. So I was coming from the United States, which is a long journey. And as you remember, Suman, a couple of the guys in our group were coming from Seattle, which was the other side of the state. So different journey, but just as long. And by the time you get there, if you don't have any experience in that region of the world, you might have a little bit of a shock of how things are operating on the ground. There's definitely a little bit of organized chaos, I would call it. But it was amazing. And, you know, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit to go back to the mountains. And Winfield, you were asking about advice and how to acclimatize and everything. And I know Suman really made a point of water consumption the whole way up, even before we got started. You know, so much so that myself and the rest of the guys in the group and the one girl there, we made a game out of it. Who could keep drinking the most amount of water, because it really did help fight the acclimatization. You know, just to make a point, I remember on the plane ride, Suman, when we were going to Lukla the second time, because if you remember, we had to actually turn around once we could see the airport because weather was so bad. And these planes, people would call them puddle hoppers or puddle jumpers. It's what you would normally see in the Bahamas on this side of the world, just going island to island. And you're going into one of the most dangerous airports in the world. So that was another experience. This thing just has layers to it. But you said, because I was looking at the mountains off in the distance and I was mesmerized by the peaks. And I wondered, you know, does this have a name? Does that have a name? And you had a little bit of a smile on your face. And you said, if it's not above 5,000 meters, we don't bother giving it a name here. That's how massive these peaks really are. And it's really hard to fathom for people that have never really been in that side of the world. Just take, for example, the Rocky Mountains. I lived in Denver area just for a couple of years, and a big thing there was doing 14ers. So that would be any peak above 14,000 feet. And just to put it in perspective of meters, that's only 4,200 and about 60 meters. So that doesn't even make the cut. The highest peaks in and around that area compared to that's not even high enough to give it a name in the Himalayas. So that was amazing. And then back to Kathmandu, I myself spent a couple days there just to try to get my bearings and deal with the jet lag and everything, and went to the Monkey Temple, got to walk around the city. And even if you don't have a particular destination to get to, it was amazing to see, like I mentioned, organized chaos. It was your eyes need to be open 24/7, not just because you want to take in the sights, but because of your life might be at risk. There's cars coming, there's scooters coming, there's dogs everywhere. It's quite an experience for sure. So Suman, when did you move from your village to Kathmandu?
I make to planning to go the day after tomorrow.
Okay.
From today in Nepal, they starting the biggest festival is called Dasai, and then most of the people they go back to home and celebrate with the families. It's a 15 days holidays. It's a long festival also.
That's awesome. And what is the
It's, it's,
festival
this
celebrating?
festival this festival especially for the Hindus people they celebrate. In Nepal, normally the main the four type of religion people they're living here, and then 100 more than 125 different kind of caste of people they're living here also. And most of the people, the different kind of caste has his own the cultural life also and his own festival also. And most of the day in Nepal, every day like as one and one the festival they're running every day. Because this is the biggest festival starting from today also. And I make to planning to go the day after tomorrow, and then I spend like as 1 week with my family, and then I back to again Kathmandu.
So how long does it take you to get from Kathmandu to your
And
village?
from Kathmandu, I there is a different way to go my home. Nowadays, the access by the road, but not good road. It's a kind of bumpy road. But I travel to motorbike, go on motorbike. It takes from Kathmandu to my hometown. It takes 3 hours from Kathmandu.
Okay. And as far as your village goes, obviously there's a huge difference between being in the center city, hustle and bustle of Kathmandu, and then living life out more in the village setting. Can you talk to us just a little bit about what life is like in your village for your family and how you were growing up? Maybe people who might be interested in seeing that side of Nepal.
Actually, my village is the green hilly region. That means my village is like 800 meter from the sea level, right?
Okay.
And most of the in my family, and then most of the people, they are like a farmer. They are all are growing on a farmer families, right? Still on my village, the people they working in farmer, and people they working very hard, or and when they work very hard, it's still not enough for the eating like expensive for everything. They need to still more hard working.
What are they growing?
And they're growing in my village. They're growing mostly the rice, the popcorn, the potatoes, cabbage, those kind of things they're growing there. The most of the people they're growing the rice.
And what can we expect in terms of Napoli food? I've had some delicious Napoli food in Sydney, Australia, other parts of the world too, also in London. But when we're in Nepal, what can we expect? Curries, thalis? What's traditional Napoli?
It's our national traditional food is called dal bhat. The dish of dal bhat is there is different kind of they give to the rice, different kind of lentil, the pickles, and the spinach. Those kind of things come with the rice. This is the main dish in Nepal. And then most of the people who living to countryside, even in the city side, those kind of people they eat twice a day. In lunchtime and in a dinner time also they eat the same things.
I noticed that while we were on the trek, because anytime we would stop for food, Suman, it would usually be the trekking crew together, and then the guides and the Sherpas and everyone, off and taking a break from all these Westerners that are bugging them all the time. But you guys would always eat dal bhat. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention momo, because that was probably my favorite thing that I ate in Nepal. Can you talk to us and tell listeners what momo is?
And momos, especially they're from the Tibet, but nowadays in Nepal also famous. And then we can find different kind of momos in Nepal. It's called dumpling also, right? And it's called found normally the both momos, chicken momos, and veg momos. And then most of the people they love the momos in Nepal also. Who come to Nepal, those people even I think once a time they eat momos and they go back also.
Yeah, I know. I
And then
definitely ordered it more than I can
we
remember.
make to one quotation also, like for the our food we call the dal bhat is they give to more carbohydrate. That's why when we go to trek or when we work very hard, we eat dal bhat because what we make to quotation, dal bhat power 24 hour.
That's
That,
great.
that's a good one. So for the momo, is that steamed, like a steamed dumpling, or what
Yes,
exactly is the consistency?
we found different kind of momos, steam the fries. Is the dumpling is some people they eat the fries, some people they eat to steams.
Hmm. So it's your preference in terms of the preparation method.
I preparation to steams.
Yes, okay, you prefer it steamed, right? No, interesting. I'm just trying to envision the consistency. So what about is meat a big part of Napoli cuisine, or is it mostly vegetables?
The most of the people they eat meat. In Nepal, mostly people they eat to the goat meat. In Nepal, not allowed to beef.
Mm-hmm.
But people eat buffaloes,
Mm-hmm.
the hams, but
Oh,
most of
very
the
good.
people eat the goat meat.
Oh, you eat goat,
The,
right?
the coming soon the festival in also most of the people has every houses they cut to goat or buffaloes.
Mm,
The
I
buffalo,
see.
the buffalo they caught on a community, on a group. The goat they kill it most every houses and they eat.
But a buffalo can also be a source of wealth for a farmer in terms of that's one of the most prized assets. So it's very rare to actually eat buffalo only at festival time.
Yeah, people they eat most of the rare comparing than the vegetables.
Right. So save it for that particular season. So going back to Everest, because for me, Everest it's been romanticized, and there's a lot of mystique, allure, all these documentaries, and it makes you curious, right? So for somebody that
Yes, yes.
has that doesn't have much or any mountaineering experience, what do you recommend in terms of if it's a lifelong journey, let's say, to try to climb Everest? Where do you start? Do you start with base camp? Do you start with 5,000-meter peaks, 6,000-meter peaks? What do you recommend to be able to try to summit one day?
If you go to summit one day, I recommended first you do trek, right? And then you after trek you can go to climb less than 6,000 meter mountain. The first of all, 6,000 or less than 6,000, my recommendation. And then after that, you go to again another 7,000 meter mountain. And then you go to another next time you go to Mount Everest. That's the better idea also. You do not jump to the lower to the same time the higher. That means you do not go to directly before climbing another mountain to Mount Everest.
No, exactly. So just in terms of moving up the chain, it's very much progression. And there are a lot of
Yes,
and there are quite a few around Everest, other 8,000-meter peaks that aren't as high as Everest, correct?
yes. In Nepal, we have a 8 mountain above the 8,000 meter. One is Mount Everest, another is called Kanchenjunga. Kanchenjunga is 8,568 meter also. Then next one is called Lhotse, is nearby the Everest. Is also 8,516 meter. The another is Makalu, is 8,485 meters, right? The another fifth Choyu is called. This is also region, same region of Mount Everest, is 8,188 meters, and another is Dhaulagiri, is 8,166 meter high, and another is called Manaslu, is 8,163 meters. This Manaslu is nearby my hometown also. When I wake up every morning, I saw the Manaslu also. It's nearby my hometown also. And then another one, the eighth one is called Annapurna First, is 8,091 meter elevation.
Have you summited any of those?
No, I cannot summit it nowadays so far, but I make to planning if after COVID, if everything well, first of all I go to climbing like 6,100, like 6,200 meter first, and then maybe in the future if everything okay, I make to planning to go to climb any mountain above the 8,000 meters.
So even for you, a native that has the not only the respiratory capacity but grew up in that environment, it's important to go in the progression that you outline. So that's important for listeners to know. For even somebody that's acclimatized to the region, I'll put that in quotes. It's very important to take it one step at a time.
Yes. There
if
is
I
no
remember,
anybody. Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, if I remember correctly, you've been as high as Camp 1 on Everest. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously everyone knows Everest. It's the highest peak in the world. It's an incredible feat, but I do remember you mentioning quite a few times that it's not the most technical either. So for those that haven't seen it either firsthand or done some research, Amadablam, which you mentioned, and I'm butchering the pronunciation, I apologize, but just seeing this thing, knowing that people were able to summit it is far more impressive on a technical level than the climb up Everest. Everest is more about the altitude rather than the technique and skill to get to the top. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be pretty impressive as well, growing up in the foothills of this massive 8,000 meter plus peak, and it had to be inspiring. And when did you know that you wanted to get into more of the tourism and trekking industry when you were younger? Was that always going to be your path?
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started?
I am actually around when I was 21.
Yeah, because that's like, so for those that I haven't mentioned before, Suman, you were our main guide, but you also had an assistant, and his name was Suman as well. And you were talking to us about the progression of how to become a head guide and lead your own groups and all of that. And little Suman, as he quickly became known to us, was going through the process as well. So it was almost like an apprentice in a lot of ways, or a trainee. I'm assuming that's how you got started and eventually moved your way up too, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The mostly people who would working in tourism, especially for the trekking, everyone they starting as a porter, and after that they collect to everything, and then after that they have a process to taking the guide license, and when they take to license, after that the government they give to allowed it to guiding. Otherwise it's not possible to do guiding also.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough how impressive it is to see the porters and just the regular, village people on that journey from Lukla up to Everest Base Camp and back, taking up these loads on their back with no gripe, no complaint, and just one foot in front of the other. I mean, I'll put some pictures out there when we release this episode of the trek, but I'm talking about loads that you would normally see on a horse that's on someone's back, and they're just trudging away, and sometimes even going much faster than those people that are, halfway across the world coming here to trek. So it's just extremely impressive to be up in those mountains and see not only the culture, but the feat of endurance and strength and humility in a lot of ways as well. And I remember, Suman, we were all so happy that we finished up the trek. And it was actually, I think, on the second day before we finished, we were on our way down, and we learned that there's actually a race every year from Lukla to Everest Base Camp and back, an actual marathon run race. So here we were, so proud of ourselves that we did this amazing accomplishment and walked all the way to Everest Base Camp. And then we learned that there's yet another level above that where these people are running the same thing we did. I mean, that's just incredible.
So going back to Everest, what's interesting is you said it's not necessarily a technical mountain. The Khumbu Icefall, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation as well, but in terms of the very last step, should we say, not to make a pun, the Hillary step, going up to the summit, that's where a lot of the pictures in the media show that there's different backlogs of people and lines of people trying to get to the summit. But in between, there's the North Call, the South Call. There's multiple stations on the way up. So in terms of trying to summit, and in terms of the amount of time you need, are we really talking about 3 or 4 months?
The people is taking around 2 to 3 months. Some people.
Okay, and then to be able to get into country and acclimatize and everything that involves with that, we're really talking about probably close to half a year, right? About 6 months in total.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big time commitment, but it's obviously an adventure of a lifetime. So it's a trade-off that's worth taking.
Yeah, I think it's important also to note, Winfield, that everyone talks about summiting Everest, but you have to get to base camp, right? So here we are talking about that trek that people might want to do, and that's the first leg. So there's no skipping steps, as Suman always mentioned to us. You have to do that entire journey up to base camp, and then base camp becomes home for 6+ weeks, because Suman, correct me if I'm wrong, you go from base camp, camp 1, back down to base camp, up to camp 1, camp 2, back down to camp 1, base camp, and you do these levels in order to get your body ready. And of course, way before that, years before that, you already have enough experience. And I think, if I recall, the year that I joined you, Suman, was 2019, and that was actually a devastating year for those trying to make the summit. Many people lost their lives because of overcrowding, because Everest became too much of a tourist, let's call it air quotes, tourist journey rather than for strictly mountaineers. And I think since then, things were changing as far as getting your permits and being able to do it. And of course, then COVID hit. And I think it's very important to mention, the impact COVID had, because the majority of people coming for these treks or for summiting any of the mountains nearby are going to come from around the world, not necessarily be local. So you had to have seen a complete halt on that. I mean, you and I were talking over the last year or so, and you mentioned things are slowly getting back to normal. Are we back up to steam as far as people coming back and enjoying the treks with you?
Yeah,
that's good.
Even in this time, the last season in March, April, I reached to there one time, and then that time also people, they are make to plan to come to Nepal and do the Everest base camp. Still in this situation also, and then we think if not this happen, so many people they make to plan to come to Nepal and they visit to the Everest base camp also. And nowadays also starting to slightly better, and then many people they going to Everest base camp nowadays also. Starting to again people they come to Nepal and then trek to Nepal also.
That's really good to hear that things are getting back on pace. It kind of makes me think, around the world when things were shut down and people were quarantined or not traveling so much, you saw a lot more nature come back and things got a little bit more open and cleaner and allowed to return to its natural state. I was there with you going from Lukla to Everest Base Camp, knew how crowded it was. Have you seen, since you've been on the trek, things come back as far as nature goes? Maybe a little less impact from humans. Maybe it looks a little different. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When we're traveling with you this time to when I go last time, I found many different. On a trial also, no more crowded, no more like as a pollution, and then everywhere I found a little bit different comparing then when you travel and then when I traveled the last times.
So in some sense, it was kind of giving it a breather a little bit, less of an impact, less of foot traffic, allowing things to have a bit of a rebirth.
Yeah.
It's interesting in that same vein. I was in Ukraine a few months ago, and since the nuclear disaster at Chernobyl, which was in 1986, there has been a total rebirth of nature and the forest. Things are so overgrown that you almost don't see buildings anymore because nature has just kind of reclaimed things. So we just did a 18-month experiment with that, but imagine if it was a little bit longer. They would very much the familiar sites that we see now or trek on every day for whatever it may be would completely change.
So Suman, most of the
please.
time you're on these treks, it's for work, right? You're enjoying yourself, obviously, but when you go, when you go with, let's say, friends or just by yourself or something for leisure, what is your favorite trek or destination within that region?
It means all over the Nepal, right?
All over Nepal, yeah, wherever you want, because obviously, you do the normal
paths. There
paths.
is one trek is called the Upper Mustang. This is the most I like the trekking places because there is a many different kind of things we can see. This is the mountain desert, totally mountain desert, right? There is a mountain also, and then we can see the similar like as a desert also, right? We cannot see any kind of the trees or those kind of things in there. And there is another things is those part as similar, mostly similar like as the Tibet, and the mostly people are also Buddhist people, they living there, and there is a many monasteries over there also. This is my favorite trek place also, and there is a many different kind of landscape also.
Is it a technical trek?
It's a very easy trek. Nowadays the road also access there, all the treks, all our destination places. I think it's not most technical places also, but the permit is little bit expensive comparing than the another trekking trail in Nepal, because this is the restricted area. We need to get a permit from our Nepal immigration. That's why the permit is expensive comparing than the another trekking trail.
So in terms of that, in terms of the permit and just kind of overall, what are there a lot of options for different budgets? So for people that want a little bit less or that want to stay outside or camp outside, or people that prefer to stay in different accommodation, what are the different options, and how long does the permit process take for most treks or climbs?
Especially for the climbing, we have a long process to get a permit. For the trekking, it's not a long process. If we have a one day, we found easily the trekking permit everywhere in Nepal.
What you said, 1 day?
1 day, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Before
so
go to
if I come to,
if you have 1 day, we can get easily the trekking permit everywhere in Nepal.
Okay. So you can just show up to Kathmandu and say, I want to do this trek and you can go the day after.
Yes, mostly
Okay.
if you go to the restricted area, we need to the real passport. The other places, if we found the copy for your passport and we make to permit.
And how long does the process for a permit for a base camp, for Everest base camp?
Everest base camp, we do not need to take a long process. For the Everest, especially for the Everest, we get the permit on the trail. We do not need to get a permit from the Kathmandu.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important to note as well that there's a big difference between a trekking permit and a climbing permit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Suman, but that's one of the big things about any type of summiting is it's a much longer process, much different permit, and usually the cost difference is significant, and that's why you don't find as many people doing this as you would find people who, like myself, do the trekking. And real quick, what was the name of that desert region again? I just want to make sure.
Upper Mustang.
Upper Mustang, is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. We definitely want to make sure we include that for anyone listening.
And what about in terms of for a climbing permit? Do you have to produce a mountaineering CV, or do you have to show your experience to the authorities in order to be allowed to summit?
Yeah, it's take a long process to get a permit if you go to above 8,000 meter, even less than 8,000 meter also. But if you go to the first time, if you go to, you do not climb before any mountain and then you like to go Mount Everest directly, it's not possible. You need to show to, before go to Mount Everest, you need to show to another, the peak or mountain climber before go to Everest.
I was going to say that's fortunate that there's at least some restriction, because as we've seen with these in 2019, that it seems as if a lot of people are just inexperienced, especially going from whether it's Kilimanjaro straight to Everest, or not having the requisite protocols in order to be able to survive in that environment. So I'm glad that there's some regulation by the authorities.
Yeah.
You know, Suman, if you couldn't tell, Winfield and I are very interested in possibly getting into the mountaineering space beyond just trekking. So I know I just got back from Peru going on a trek to Machu Picchu, and I learned that there's a great mountaineering school in Peru to help you learn the basics and get you ready and prepared. I have to imagine that within Nepal or the region that there's also schools there that can help with mountaineering skills and learning from basic all the way up to summiting, 6,000 meter peaks. Do you know of any of those schools within the region?
Yeah, in the Khumjung, the place on the way to Everest Base Camp, there is the one place. There is like as a not. The school is a training center. Mm-hmm. It's a climbing training center. It's called the Khumjung, and there is a one training center who go to climbing to mountain, and people before go to, especially for the Sherpas people, because they are involving there too much, and then before they go to training there, and then after that they go to climbing.
So people let's say
people. For the foreigner people, they don't need, most of people, they don't go to there just before they climb to another mountain, and they read and then they make the experience, right? Anyway, and after that they go.
So people like myself can go to that school and learn?
The experience is the most part of the things who go to climbing mountain.
Sure, yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest parts of it is how do you get started, right? And you want to make sure that you get started where you feel confident and you're in good hands. And usually that means you do it with someone with a lot more experience and you train under them. And who better to train with than those that are climbing to literally the peaks of the earth, the highest points on earth. So I love to hear that. And it's definitely something on my radar that I'd be interested in doing. Winfield, you're going to join me, right?
Yes, with permission from a special someone, aka my wife. But no, we've talked a lot about trekking on this show and climbing, of course, because that's what Nepal is famous for. What can you recommend for people that may not be interested in mountaineering or climbing in Nepal? What are some of the other attractions for prospective tourists into the country?
There is in Nepal. There is a many things who don't like to climbing or trekking in Nepal. In Nepal, who come to Nepal, I think those people they love it to the cultural program, right? When they go to different part of Nepal, they found a different kind of culture people. They showing their different the cultural activities. That's also main important things in Nepal. When you visit to Nepal, if you go to different kind of the places, you every different kind of places you found every different kind of culture, the people, then the religions. This is the one things. The another things is when if you come Nepal and then you can mostly visit at Kathmandu, you can see the most architect and like as temples, those kind of things also attractive for the peoples.
That's interesting.
And
And
we have
go
like
ahead.
as a many national park also, right? And when you enter into national park, you can do many activities there, and you can see the many things also. And then if you, I think everybody knows the birthplace of the Buddhas. This is the one another active motivation place for the people to visit to Nepal also.
And so you mentioned earlier uh, predominantly Hindu population in terms of religion, but also on the Buddhist side, is that Tibetan Buddhism or is that a Theravada strain or they're different sects in Buddhism? What is the predominant
They
religion?
similar like the Tibetan Buddhism.
Okay, so it is Dalai Lama esque and that.
Yes,
That
still people they follow the Dalai Lamas who believe in Buddhism.
No, very interesting. Okay, and that's of course the temples are very colorful, especially the flags out front.
Yes,
There's
yes,
a
yes,
lot of color, a lot of bells, a lot of
yes,
chimes.
yes,
It's a
yes,
very.
yes.
I have no idea what's going on, but it seems
Yes,
like a
yes,
very inspiring
that's
place.
exactly what you says. Yes, that's exactly what you says.
And the whole as you said the congestion in Kathmandu. I know Chris told me about the monkey temple. I'm a little bit afraid. Come up and rip a bag of chips out of your hand. They if they're hungry, they want what they want.
They are, I think, they are hungry and they want it also.
Great.
Well, Suman, truly appreciate all of this. I think right now it might be time to do what is known as our lightning round. So we have 10 questions that we ask our guests at the end of each episode. And they revolve usually around travel, around your country, and just around some things that are a bit more personal as well. So the first question for you, Suman, is if you had one wish, what would it be?
One wish,
One wish, what would it be?
wish. If you come to Nepal for everyone, you just if you come with me or not, you try to contact with me and we meet and then get enjoying for everyone. Try to contact me and then we meet it and we enjoy it. I give you good information for everyone.
So then, which country, Suman, do you want to visit the most and why? Where would you want to go?
Especially, I like to Europe because I need to see many things. If I go to Europe, I can see many things inside the Europe.
Anywhere in particular in Europe?
I like not especially places. I love to mountain. That's why I think the Norway is the great place for us
Yes,
and
absolutely.
for
I
me
was
also.
The fjords, you'll love it.
So then, Suman, what's one place or one thing in Nepal you still really want to do? Something that you haven't done.
Treks,
More treks?
more treks.
You are in the right place in the right industry, man. Anywhere in particular within Nepal? I know you have, after the holiday, a trek planned. Is that the first time you're going to be going to your destination?
Yes,
Nice. And where are you headed?
I go to Rara Lake.
Rara Lake?
Yeah, it's a very far from Kathmandu.
Okay.
It's one lake in there. There is a very beautiful lakes.
Nice. So, next question for you. What is the strangest thing you've ever eaten? The weirdest thing you've ever tried?
Oh, yes, it's called
Grainy?
duriani in Singapore.
Biryani. Mm.
Yeah.
Duriani. You know the duriani?
Yes.
This is the strongest things I eat it.
What is that?
That is kind of similar like the jackfruit, but the smell is not. I'm not.
Durian,
Yes.
right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, durian. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
durian.
the stinky fruit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man.
You can't even bring them in hotels in Malaysia. There's a
you
sign,
can't.
no durian.
Yes.
All over Southeast Asia at the airports, they say there's big signs with the mark across it, no durian. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
you're pretty brave. It was
Yeah.
that's pretty intense just smelling that on the streets.
Yeah.
All right, Suman. So, what is your favorite thing about Nepal?
My favorite thing in Nepal is the food is called dal bhat, because when I'm burning, we are starting to eat that one, and it's still so far. I love it. That one. It's called dal bhat.
Dalbat. I've tried it myself. It is delicious, and it's nothing but energy for sure. What's
Because dal bhat they give to more carbohydrate, and then we are need to more energy also.
Yeah.
For everywhere, even when I child, I need to work in my hometown. I need more energy. That's why we eat with more dal bhat, and we found more energy also.
Yeah, that's important to mention as well, because it's not just what people might be thinking, trekking all the time. You're out there in the fields, you're working, you have long days, you need that energy, right? So Dalbat, whether
Yes.
you're on the farms or you're up in the mountains. So
Yes.
what would you say is a must-see attraction in Nepal? What do people have to see?
The most attraction see people are the mountains.
Of course. That has to be one of the biggest draws. I mean, that's what brought me to the area itself. Of course, culture on top of that, and just seeing the rest of the country. But the mountains, the
Yes.
Himalayas, incredible.
Yes.
So then, when people come to Nepal, what would you say is one tip you have for them? A tip that you would give any traveler in Nepal?
My wish is who come to Nepal, before come to Nepal, try to where you go, try to read and make some knowledges, and then go to anywhere or everywhere. That's my tips.
So explore all of your country then.
Yes.
Just see everything you possibly can in Nepal. I think that's great
Yes.
advice for anywhere. Absolutely. So I know you just mentioned you had durian in Singapore. So I know you've traveled, around. I've seen your pictures as well. What motivates you to travel?
Because I'm working on a tourism sector. If I travel to different places or different countries or different the cultures, and after that I collected the many things what I give it to the tourist people or travel people in Nepal. That's why I love it to travel different kind of places inside Nepal or outside Nepal also. I collected the many things, the culture, the peoples and the nature, everything. That's why I love it to traveling to all over the places.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I also think it's important to note that people within the tourism industry, you have so much of the world coming to you as well. So not only do you go out and explore yourself, but also people bringing their own cultures, like myself coming from America or other people coming from Europe. You get to see a little bit of their culture too while they're enjoying your country. So it's just an
Yes,
amazing dynamic for
yes,
sure.
exactly.
So when people are in Nepal and they're traveling around, which mode of transportation would you recommend? Would it be a bus? Would it be by a scooter or motorcycle? What would you recommend to get around the country?
Uh, those things depends on the people. I recommend it to go by bus. The
So bus
flight
for
are
the
not the flight are not possible everywhere. If possible, you can take the bus. It's the cheapest and reasonable for everyone, every people.
You see a lot more that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to be able to just take a look out the window, see the whole country as you're getting to your destination. So
Yes,
Suman,
and
final
that's
question
affordable
for you.
for everyone also.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a big point too, especially people that are backpacking or more on the budget
Yes,
side of things, to be able to still enjoy but not break the
yes,
bank. You know, it sounds like the
yes.
bus is the way to go. So then Suman, in your own life, if there's one experience you could relive, what would it be?
I need to climb to Mount Everest.
So that would be the goal
My,
then, to climb the Mount Everest, to summit.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's awesome.
That's a goal that all three of us have on this episode, I think. Not to speak for Chris, of course, but
Oh no, I've just been kind of keeping it hush hush. You know, the family might have a different
well, it's out there now, man.
reaction.
Sorry.
It
You've been
is.
outed.
So much has been revealed in this episode, but well, that covers everything, Suman. Again, we really appreciate the time. You're 10 hours ahead. You're sitting in Kathmandu right now, and we're over here in the U.S. and just truly appreciate your time. Everest Base Camp Trek was an incredible journey with you, man. I will be back for sure. Hopefully with Winfield, we'll do Annapurna. Maybe we'll get to the summit of one of these 8,000 meter peaks together. But
Yes,
again,
sure,
we're
sure.
going to make sure that we put all of your contact information in the show notes, as well as our social media when the episode does air. So that way, anyone who's interested, if they're heading to Nepal, that they contact you.
Can I send on a message or I can give by voice here?
All right, go ahead and tell everyone how they can find you. Sure. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll put your social media links in the episode. But if you want to go ahead and tell everyone, I'm assuming I know you're on Facebook, WhatsApp, if you want to give out your WhatsApp number, Instagram, everywhere, right? You're pretty much everywhere.
Okay. For me, I give to try to in a Facebook. My name is Suman Dhakal, but there is a many names Suman Dhakal. I think better to give my WhatsApp number
Sure.
is +977 98510 11095. That's my WhatsApp number. And anytime if you are interested to come to Nepal or you need to any information, and you just contact me and I try to give the answer.
Thank you so much, Suman. It was a pleasure meeting you. I hope to meet you in person someday. I know all our
And then
listeners are
if
excited
possible,
to come to Nepal.
if possible, you try to mention my email ID also.
Yes.
SUMANDHAKAL1992 @gmail.com. I'm here also.
Awesome. Well, we'll include both in the show notes as well as our social media when the episode comes out. And again, anyone who's interested, You can also reach out to me on Locales Unknown. I have firsthand experience hanging out with Suman for nearly 2 weeks, so I can tell you all the scoop and just let you know how great he really is. I mean, the guy, he saved my life in a lot of ways, so I'm truly grateful.
Thank you. That's my passion also. No worries.
Well, thank you as always, Suman. We'll let you go here. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll talk to everybody.
Thank you for giving this opportunity. I'm really happy. See you again. Hopefully, in the world everything going to normal and meet as soon as possible.
Very soon.
Thank you, Suman.
Thank you. Thank you.
So without further ado, here's another fun fact about Nepal. When you think Nepal, obviously you think highest mountain in the world, but Nepal actually has the second deepest canyon on Earth. It's called Kali Gandaki. So whenever you're over there, be sure to check that out. And until next time.
Well, there you have it. Another fun fact about a locale unknown. Thank you, Winfield, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode with us. We started this podcast in the hopes of shedding some light on the various destinations out there in the world that might be more off the beaten path. And we're hoping we're accomplishing that goal by bringing on our friends and our various guests to give us some insight about their various locations and what to do in the areas. So if you like what you hear, make sure that you follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as the social media platforms out there, because we're back every single week. I wouldn't want you to miss what we have coming up. We already have a couple great guests in the pipeline that we are very excited for, and I think you guys will be too. So we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on all the other platforms. Locales Unknown. Go ahead and hit the search. When you find us, be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you're an Apple Podcast user out there, please let us know how we're doing. We're building this for you guys. So scroll down to the bottom of Apple Podcasts and go ahead and leave us a review and maybe some comments there. Also on social media, we are very active on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. We have our YouTube channel, so feel free to go ahead and drop us a line. We have our website, localesunknown.com. You can find all of our episodes there. And if you want to reach us directly, we have our email address, contact@localesunknown.com. Maybe you have some suggestions for us. Maybe you want to introduce us to someone that you think might be a great fit for the show. We are all ears. So once again, thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back here next week with another great episode somewhere out there in the world. Stay tuned.